And good evening, everyone. I'm not sure if this is working. We're going to find out together. Apparently we're live on YouTube. Good enough for me. Well, welcome to This Is Why We Fight. I was going to say I'm Wally, as an amusing joke upon last week and my absence. But no, I don't think I deserve that title anymore. I think somebody else does. The person who isn't here. I think it's her fault. So yes, I'm Jordan, and Replacement Wally is not with us this evening, because Replacement Wally didn't sleep, like a normal person. And Replacement Wally did not even give me the password to get into Restream. Which isn't much good. Can't do very much unless I can get into the thing I need to get into in order to stream, which is why we're here, in a rather unusual position of being on YouTube and YouTube alone. Good evening, English Bird and Roy, as well as Sir Francis. It's been a while. It's been 2 weeks for me. I would say I had a nice week last week. I didn't. I would much rather have been here with you, but I was not. Such is life. Good evening as well, Kate. And everybody else. We have a bit of a hodgepodge of a show tonight. Not entirely sure how this is going to go, but we're going to find out as we muddle our way through this. I only have one screen, so going back and forth between you and the thing I'm talking about at the start is going to be a little bit tricky, but we're going to get there. We're going to work it out. It's not normally that big of an issue because Restream is slightly more useful for handling this sort of thing. I pressed something. Don't ask what I pressed because I don't know. Indeed, Satch, no sticker raid today. There will be nothing. There will be no fun. We will be putting this up afterwards on Odyssey. How exactly we're putting it on Odyssey, not sure. But we'll work that out as well. It must be said, I've never streamed directly off of YouTube before. Seems acceptable so far, but we just muddle on and get on with it. But yes, back in the news today is our good friend, Mr. Blair. Just when you thought you got rid of the little cockroach pops out again. And this time he wants what he wanted once before. This was one of the things that he wanted originally when he was PM, and he wasn't able to do anything with it. And now he's pushing for it again. He wants motorists to be charged per mile amid traffic fears, because that's what they really care about. I don't remember who said. I think it may have been Andrew. It may have been Replacement Wally. I'm not sure, but it may have been Andrew. Pretty damn certain it was Andrew. These people are so incredibly controlling. They're controlling your life down to how many miles you're driving. Like the sort of brain that it takes in order to care about something so small and insignificant is quite something. The number of electric cars currently in operation in this country is expected to explode to around 25 million by 2035. That's mainly because they're going to start banning everything else. If it runs on actual fuel, then you can't be having with that. Up there with their silly bloody petrol thing that they've done recently, changing us over to E10. The general gist of tonight, by the way, I should explain, because I have this idea in my head. The general gist of this is going to be why your average person can't see the government tyranny at play. Because while this, on the surface, it seems quite I'm not going to say a reasonable thing, because it isn't reasonable. It's a soft thing. It's not that big of a deal. As soon as you give it even half a second of critical thought, you think to yourself, wait a minute, if they want to charge per mile, that means they're going to be tracking you. that means they're going to be tracking you everywhere at all times. And there is certainly something from Australia coming up later on that really doubles down on that one to an absolutely absurd degree. He's not looking like Peter Stringfellow here, at least. That's nice to know. He's gone to the barbers. The barbers have opened up once again. It's unlikely to be introduced. You know what else was unlikely to be introduced? The national ID cards, which is something else he pushed for, and then we said no, and now they're bringing in. This is just an interesting one. I actually won't talk to Joe about this, but Joe not being here has made this slightly tricky, bit of a one-way conversation. They want cyclists to pay for... Basically, they want cyclists to start paying road tax. I'm not sure where I sit on that, because I don't like government taxes. I don't know what, by definition, I don't like taxes. At the same time, really kind of argue. It's hard to argue against cyclists being made to pay road tax. They use the road. It was just going to be an interesting conversation between Joe and I, and it made it through when it shouldn't have. The main thing, well, the second main thing, I suppose, the main proper thing is coming up later on, as I said, with Australia. Taxes to rise to 25 million of us, as Boris breaks his election pledge. This is also on top of the triple lock, I believe. The thing I found really interesting, well, was here it is. This section here. Let's highlight that in a colour that isn't absolutely garish. There we go. That's only giving you a small amount of eye cancer as opposed to the blue, which is really going all out. However, the Times reported that Chancellor, dear old Richie, is suggesting anything more than 1%. Sorry, it's against anything more than 1%, while the Health Secretary is pushing for up to 2%, saying a 1% increase would only raise 10 billion. That's an enormous amount of money. That really is an enormous amount of money just to be raised by taxing us an extra 1% on our earnings. The reason that I wanted to highlight this was it shows just how much money they're sucking out of the economy, and then I'm trying to think of a suitable phrase I can use. Just the amount of money that they're sucking out of the economy and then wasting. There you go. That's the most appropriate thing. And we all know what they're wasting it on. They're now wasting it upon our latest replacements. The good old Afghans who are now coming over here. The poor little dears. They've lost their own nation, so we have to give them ours. As you do. Dear old Boris has turned into a little bit of a U-turn machine, which was slightly surprising. I believe there's 13. Is this the article that says 13? No, it is not. Well, this is all of them. Anyway, we've had the national lockdown measures, the working from home nonsense, the face mask in school, the eviction thing, the A-level results twice, which is even more remarkable considering this was in the space of a week. At that point, is it even a U-turn? Or is it just a straight line? It's like a 3-point turn. The NHS contact tracing app. Apps are definitely making an appearance tonight. The free school meal things and the remote voting, which I don't remember at all. Oh, who cares? That was about MPs. Yeah, whatever. The app thing. The beginning of. We thought our app was quite bad. Namely, we thought the part of the app that we have that's quite bad is how they've brought it in and silently, behind closed doors, changed its use. I don't remember exactly what they did to it, but it really is quite something now. There's a good clip of Julia Hartley-Brewer delving into it. which I should have had loaded up, and I think may already be on Restream, because Joe and I were going to talk about it last week, and didn't. But I'm not on Restream. So, tough cookie on that one. I saw this last night on Telegram. And this is the crux of tonight's show. This was the original thing that I saw. It was just this quote. I didn't see it from a government official, and I thought to myself, that sounds really, really bad. I'll read it out. In-state travel within Australia is also severely restricted. And the government of South Australia, one of the country's 6 states, developed an app it is now testing. As Orwellian as any in the free world. I think it goes beyond that. I think this is the most Orwellian thing mankind's ever created. People in South Australia will be forced to download the app that combines facial recognition and geolocation. The state will text them at random times, and thereafter they will have 15 minutes to take a picture of their face in the location where they are supposed to be. Should they fail, the local police department will send a follow-up in person. We don't tell them how often or when. On a random basis, they have to reply within 15 minutes. The boss of South Australia has said. He is then high as a kite because he goes on to say, I think every South Australian should feel pretty proud that we are part of the national pilot for this home-based quarantine app. I'm not going to get into the part that the author of that part dug into, and he is completely dead on when he brings out this god-awful sentence here. I'm just going to focus on the app itself. This is the man in question. And now I'm back, I can see you guys, so that'd be nice. This app is... I'll be honest, I can't imagine anything like this. This is absolutely insane. If a person cannot successfully verify their location or identity when requested, South Australia will notify South Australia Police, who will conduct an in-person check on the person in quarantine. They're going to try and brush this away and say, well, this is home quarantine. You have a choice. You can go and quarantine in one of our little quarantine camps, or you can go and quarantine at home. Then if you want to quarantine at home, you have to download our app. The problem is they're making, well, from what I gathered in the first one, they're making all residents of the state download the app. I hardly know what to say to it. And this is the point of tonight's stream. Like, why is it people cannot see this sort of tyranny? It isn't even... It's not even as if they're hiding it. They're just outright saying what they want to do. I can't... There's nothing that I know of like this in China. I know China have the weird social credit scheme thing, which is in some ways worse than this. I agree with Roy. He says use a dumb phone. Can I bring that up on screen? No, I can't. I'm not used to my lack of tricks. This is annoying. I fully agree with you, Roy. Just now is definitely the time to look at crossing over back to a dumb phone. I'd like to know how this would work. If you travel to South Australia and you don't have a smartphone, are they going to force you to go into quarantine? At which point they're not really giving you much of a choice. I can't say the second part of that comment, boy. Although I don't disagree. I did see something about the truck drivers down in Oz. I saw originally they were quite disappointed that only a handful of people turned up, and then I saw a map and it appeared that most of the area around Sydney was blocked off, which I thought was pretty damn impressive. I don't know whether originally it was just a little bit of misinformation on the part of the enemy or what, but it was quite interesting. So I would like your opinion on this. Why is it people can't see this insane amount of government tyranny? What is going on when this information is freely available? But it's not even just freely available. I can understand the argument that there are certain things that are actually difficult to find because you have to know what you're looking for. But with this sort of thing here, they're literally telling you about it. There can't be a single person in Australia at this moment in time who doesn't know about this app. It just can't be. There has to be some weird hermit somewhere deep in a cave outside Alice Springs, and he's the only person who knows, who doesn't know about it. Other than that, everyone else must know, surely. So at that point, when they're faced with something so plainly obvious, how do they not see it? How do they not realise it's an issue? I would imagine our dear friend Skippy, whatever the hell his name was, Stephen Marshall, I would imagine that he must know this is incredibly unpopular in order to come out and say something as unbelievably dumb as he did. Oh, we should all just be incredibly proud of ourselves for this. How about no? I agree with Bandor, I'd go and walk about and all. What did the English bird say? Too deep to admit they'd been had. To an extent, I think yes. I think there's a lot of people who've bought into this a little bit, and they feel that they've bought into it so much they can't pull back. I agree that Australia is definitely the testing ground for what's coming up. Which is why things like the road tax is something that needs to be paid attention to at the moment. Even though it's a very, very minor thing, it does need to be looked at. We do need people to realise what that ultimately means. Because if you combine the road tax thing that Blair has wanted here for decades now at this point, and you combine that with this horrific Australian app, you combine those two things together, suddenly not only are the government going to know exactly where you are, but at any moment you leave your home, they're going to send you a message and say, get back indoors. Is the film... Oh, I vaguely remember this. I don't even know what the name of the film is. There is a film. I think it's Aliens or something. Oh, I've seen it referenced. I've never seen the film. I've just seen it referenced. Somebody in chat, you must know, surely. I think it's got the bird out of X-Files in it. Scully. Anyway, this film, it basically, aliens have come down, they've landed, they've then locked everybody in their homes. And as soon as you leave your home, a robot comes along, like a flying robot I think, I have no idea. It comes along and it tells you to go back indoors, and if you don't go back indoors it shoots you. Slight jump, you know, once you strip away the sci-fi stuff of that, it is basically what people in Australia are now facing, and what we will be facing as well. Well, I don't believe they want you to take a selfie with a background. I think it is simply they want you to take a selfie and then they're going to use the metadata from the picture itself. So not the background, but just when you take the picture, your phone will say you know, these are coordinates for where you are, and then they will say, right, you are where you are supposed to be, or you are not where you are supposed to be. What we should do is just send in a load of dick pics. We were all thinking it. That's what they should do. Just defeat it that way. And when they say it's not you, we need a picture of your face. Just put a little smiley face on it or something. We also... there was a thought that I had before that, and I can't remember what it was now. There is something funny about having a bloody a state mandated selfie. What a weird time to be alive. What a strange life. Space, I do agree with you about their corpus. I don't know much about them. I merely know, quite honestly, what I've heard from lads from there that I've played cricket with over the years, as well as what I've seen when we've gone down under for the Ashes. And everyone has always said the same. Their coppers, especially in Melbourne, which is actually quite surprising that it isn't happening there, but their coppers, especially in Melbourne, are little dictators. They talk to you very, very badly, they treat you very, very badly, and in general, they are not very nice people. So I'm not surprised that this is taking place at all, considering pretty much everything I've ever heard about them says that, yeah, this has been a long time coming. At least in terms of... At least in terms of the attitude from the police. Everything I've heard is that they are basically like little mini Hitlers walking around with the uniforms. Oh, that's good news from Roy. People are selling realistic prosthetic full face masks for falling street facial recognition systems. I've seen a number of things. A number of technologies developed for this. I think it's a great idea. I think this is a really, really, really good idea. Certainly something that's very useful. And will only become more and more useful as time goes on, unfortunately. But yes, back to the overall question. Why can't people see this? Is it something... I don't like just blaming people and saying, it's because they're ignorant. It's like, yeah, to an extent that is correct. But why are they choosing to be ignorant? And what can we do to break through that? There must be something. I understand that you can't lead a horse to water. It's perfectly reasonable, but we are kind of losing the information battle. Thank you for posting the link, Andrew. I was just about to do it, and then I realised, wait, I can't do it. I don't know where it is because I'm not on my usual platform. I agree with that, Roy. Roy has said a lot of people just flop in front of the telly after a long day of doing a boring job they hate. That I fully agree with. I think that is a large part of the issue. People just hate work. It's not even that they hate work. Actually, no, I apologise. That was poorly worded. It's not that they hate work. They hate their god-awful jobs. Absolutely awful jobs at the moment. There's nothing that's terribly fulfilling. I go on about them all the time. Can you imagine being an accountant? All you do is move ones and zeros from one column to another. Oh, God. It's not fulfilling. It's not natural. It's not good. It's not how we're supposed to be. And I think that is a large part of it. People are demoralised. So then if people are demoralised, working out ways to pull them out of that and pull them up has got to be the goal. Barndor was right, soul destroying. Kate has said, when I first realised the truth about how the world is run, it was really hard to get my head around that level of evil. It's hard to accept. I kind of agree. I don't know, maybe I think I've come at this from a different place from most. Well, maybe not most, but certainly a lot of people, so it wasn't that much of a shock. I was fully on board the 9/11 being an inside job train. And I think once you're on board with that, you're basically understanding that the state doesn't really matter. There's people behind it, and those people are evil as hell. I'm trying to remember, what was the name of it? Was it Project Norwood, I believe. That was when they wanted to blow up some boats, I think it was. They wanted to blow up something in America, and then they wanted to blame the Cubans on it in order to instigate a war. When you see the official documents that just outright state that, there's no going back. You're not then going to turn around and say, "Hey, you know what? They're not all that bad." Yeah, my stepdad's not mean has just corrected me. It was Northwards, not Norwood. Roy has said, once sat in an ex-shipbuilder's pub in Newcastle, surrounded by young men who worked in the local call centre, all moaning about their jobs. Walls covered in photos of men who built enormous ships. That is incredibly, incredibly sad, and dead on the heart of our problems at the moment. There are so many people doing non-jobs, and it is soul-destroying. And it's the sort of thing that is soul-destroying in ways that affect more than just the individual. It affects the community as a whole. Because if you have... there's always been awful jobs throughout history. I'm certain that they had many, many worse jobs back in the past than we do nowadays. The Royal Butt Wiper, I'm sure, was not a great job. And everyone had a hard time. That is correct. But there were also a lot of people who had jobs that were fulfilling and actually meant something. I would say the majority of people. And now we're in a position where the majority of people have non-jobs. They do stuff to make money because they need to make money, because they need to pay off rent, they need to pay the government, they need to pay for food. And that's it, that's the only reason they're doing it. And it does make people miserable. It makes people miserable at a societal level. Because rather than it being one or two people who have an unfulfilling job, or at least a miserable job, there's suddenly a whole bunch of them. It's 10% of the population, it's 30% of the population, it's more and more and more. Michael has said dock work is bloody hard graft. It is. My dad loves telling this story of his granddad, who was a dock worker. And he once cut his hand. My dad has never explained how he cut his hand or what the hell he did. But anyway, he once cut his hand, and the skin on his hand was so thick after probably at that stage about 50 years of working on the docks that they couldn't get the needle through. So they just had to bandage it up as best they could, and that was it. I'm pretty certain this was long before the days of superglue. So he was basically screwed. He had a massive cut on his hand and they couldn't do anything about it beyond just kind of push it together. So yeah, dock work is definitely excessively hard work. Reboot Needed has said, what I don't understand is why. They already have power of control, billions of pounds. If they push too hard, they risk waking up the normies. This is something I can't understand either. This is something I've thought of a hell of a lot. But they must be doing something with that money. I saw, I'm pretty certain it was the Ice Age Farmer who made this post, cool, but 2 months ago now at this stage possibly. Apparently there's a massive hole in the US government budget. It works out to be an enormous amount of money, billions upon billions of dollars, and it hasn't been spent. And it's such a large amount of money that there's no way it has been spent on projects above ground. So that leads me to believe they're doing something underground. Or something, more precisely, probably, something not on this planet at all. They are probably doing something on the moon with it, though the question of why comes to mind. I have some theories, but that's all they are. They're just crackpot theories, basically. They're not my... it's not my forte. But beyond that, I don't know why they're pushing so hard. They are really, really going for it, and it just doesn't make sense. They must realise eventually they're going to break something, and people are not going to put up with it anymore. I could be wrong, I could be right. It says, Reboot, money is just a tool for them. The objective is to install their religion worldwide. I think that is certainly a possibility. Even if it isn't their religion as such, I think they want to install something worldwide. They want to impress their worldview upon all of us. Johnny has said, I was an iron worker right out of high school, working for my grandfather's company. And him and his buddies used to say there were a time where they made wooden ships and steel men. I like that. Never heard that before, but I like that a great deal. Willis put forward a good possibility here. He said they'll never have enough power because it's a Ponzi scheme. They need more power and wealth to consistently keep paying off their cronies. I had a beep. Apologies. Kate has said, look what people have already accepted. Even the government didn't expect people to comply so easily. People have accepted a hell of a lot. They've accepted a lot more than I expected. This crazy app down in Australia, I'll be honest, I thought that was the end game. Or at least the thing that led into the end game. I didn't expect it to be pushed forward so soon. But to be honest with you, not that I did expect it. I'm not sure anybody really expected state-mandated selfies. That's just insane. Spacer says depopulation seems the obvious motivation. I would agree with that. Definitely. There's lots of motivations. It's also weird. Andrew said they want to be gods on earth. They see natural law as a constraint, and they want, and the earth at prison. Bloody hell, I can read. Occasionally. This is what happens when the fake Wally isn't here. It is a heavy chat, David. It is indeed a heavy chat, but it is necessary, I think. Johnny not pound is a good solution. Been taking time out to build, restore, energize, reflect, rest, align one's thoughts. It helps. I like that. We've been doing that as well, as you can tell. Hence, far fewer streams than normal. Admittedly, we are probably more busy than ever, to be honest with you. I agree, Kate. It is insane people are allowing the government to dictate whether they can hug their family or not. You just can't make some of the things up. Like asking questions like, am I allowed to hug my family? There were BBC articles on that. I've been asked before, oh, are we allowed to do that now when I've gone to shake someone's hand? So it's so strange. And it's happened so incredibly quickly. The good thing is, the really, really good thing is, and this is something people don't take into account, if it's been so quick to be instilled into society, imagine how quickly it can be ripped out. I think once the wall starts to break and it starts to go our way, it's going to be really, really quick. It's not going to be something that's dragged out slowly for years and years and years. It's going to be weeks, possibly less. It's just going to be people saying, no, we're done, we've had enough, goodbye. And then there's not really much they can do. This is why we always push for things like communities, as opposed to... What I hope at this point is plainly obvious, that there is no political solution of any kind. It will not happen. I'm not sure entirely why people are still going along with this line of thought. It doesn't make any sense. Like, it really doesn't make any sense at all. Look at the Afghan thing at the moment. How many councils in this country right now are saying things like, oh, we're going to make ourselves migrant friendly? I know, not my council, but the council for the next town over, they said something along the lines of they want to make their town the most migrant friendly place in Britain. Meanwhile, their MP strongly campaigned and won off the back of no more migrants. So, on one hand, they're saying no more migrants, and then on the other hand they're saying maximum migrants and let's make them nice and comfy. I have indeed seen that plenty of councils are saying no as well, which is a good thing. I'll grant that. Ultimately doesn't matter, but it is good. No, William, that sucks. All these bloody councils do, to be honest with you. Space to ask me if I've been prepping. I have been, as much as I can. Not as much as I would like to, I'll be honest. I would very much like some books. I would very much like some maps. I would very, very much... That reminds me, while I'm here. I came across something the other week. This is a weird segue. Here it is. It's magic. Literally. I'm going to pop that over there. If Andrew or Philomena could post that in chat for me, that would be wonderful, because I can't. This thing here is magic from DEFRA. It's basically a mapping service. There's nothing terribly special about it, but I found it interesting. I found it interesting and important, and I have a feeling... I have a feeling that it may be useful for people. It shows all sorts of things, like water runoffs and the state of fields and things like that, so it could be useful for bugging out if required. Not that that is my first option, but it is good enough. So yeah, I hope you find that link interesting. It did catch me off guard. I'm trying to remember what I was talking about beforehand. I was talking about prepping, that was it. I've not been able to prep anywhere near as much as I would like. As I was saying, I would like a couple more books on a couple of things. I would like a lot more food, honestly. Especially considering all of the food issues at the moment. I find this bloody lorry driver shortage fascinating. I find it really, really, really interesting because they are... So if you wanted to crash a market, doing what they're doing currently is the way to do it. Because they're telling people, oh, there's a massive shortage. Enormous shortage of workers, we don't have enough, can't get any more. So you're then going to have all these people sign up. Well, go get licenses, as the case would be. At the same time, they are then, and by they I mean the large companies, Waitrose being the most obvious, they are paying their drivers an incredible wage, quite honestly. And all that is going to happen is small companies are not going to be able to compete. They just won't. The reality is some of the drivers are now on twice as much as they were last week. They are doing very nicely for themselves, and good on them. It is common sense that if you work for Bert and Ernie's haulage company, and Waitrose are offering you twice what Bert and Ernie are paying you, you're going to go and work for Waitrose. The problem then is eventually it's going to take all the drivers out of Bert and Ernie's, and then someone else, i.e. Eddie Stobart or whoever, is going to come along and buy everything from Bert and Ernie dirt cheap. And they're going to keep this up for a while, and then eventually they're going to get the politicians to say, okay, well, we obviously need more migrants. We need to open up the visas for this. And then they're going to push the wages back down. And then they're going to be left with lorry drivers who are being paid roughly the same as they are now, but far fewer haulage companies. Yeah, they're all going to be sucked up by the likes of Wincanton and Eddie Stobart and whoever else. Basically the big national and mainly public companies. So yeah, that's what's going to happen on that one, I believe. I'm calling that now, mainly because I reckon in about a year's time I'm going to be proven right. So I'm just putting that out there. If Fearless Bear wants to copy that for me, that'd be wonderful. Roy's gone on to say, how long until self-driving trucks are on the road again? Good question. Very good question. They've been doing that sort of thing for a while. I believe they were running a trial last year with about 8 of them. I'm not sure. I should look that up, actually, because that is an interesting question. UK self-driving lorry. Self-driving trucks could be on the road by 2030. Obviously I was mistaken and it was just driverless cars. My apologies. So yeah, they're already pushing for 2030 on that one. It will probably be before then, I would imagine. Fun time. Will has said raising the birth rate is our best defence. That way, even if they ship in migrants, they won't be able to do it unopposed. I'm never super sure how I feel about this. Yes, the birth rate is a major issue. Just making babies for the sake of it is not good. At the same time, just making babies and then putting them back into the system that we've already seen as drastically failed is definitely not a good thing. So it would be a really interesting conversation to have when Joe is back. Actually go over children and how to raise, not how to raise them as such, but like the moral structure that should be placed around them. Because it's blatantly obvious that we've failed. Whatever has happened, we've ended up in a bad place. Thereby we need to take a detached look at it, work out what went wrong, and then make sure we don't do it again. And Roy is dead right. Around now there would have been a Motivational Joe speech, but there is no replacement Wally. Replacement Wally is not here, so there will be none of that. There will be no joy on Jordan's shows. Also, thank you for the donation, Scott. The YouTube donation thing is new for us. Not entirely certain what we're going to do with that. We may keep it, we may not. Probably not is going to be my suggestion, but we'll find out. Because we're working on something which is really, really good. But yes, the baby question. I suppose the first thing children need instilled in them in the new world would be a ceaseless detestment of government. And actually, even that I don't think has gone far enough. No. I don't think that's gone far enough at all. Because the conditions that have allowed it are in order for the government to have popped around, there's been a moral failure in the government in the form that we currently have. There's clearly been a moral failure, because everything that it is doing is completely and utterly immoral. There's no single argument for anything that it's doing at the moment. You can kind of argue for a tax based on defence. It's like, okay, fine. Taxation, theft, yeah, I get it, but there's an argument to be made there. When you start getting the arguments that they're making currently, which is, we've invaded a nation we didn't want, like the population didn't want to invade, and now 20 years later we're pulling out, we now have to take a bunch of these migrants from the nation that we invaded, that nobody wanted to invade, because it's the moral thing to do. We have a responsibility. It's like, no, lads. We don't have a responsibility. We all said no to this. You decided to do it anyway. Will has gone on to say that they're going to ship in migrants till you're completely full. Better to fill it yourselves. I don't disagree. Spacer said, let us breed responsibly in our homelands. Let others breed excessively in theirs. Tash has asked about the printer. The printer thing, long term still going ahead. For right now it is not. It's on pause. And it is on pause until the other thing can come through. And when the other thing can come through, we're going to be doing things a lot better than 3D printing. Don't worry about it. I'm excited. I mean, I'm very excited. I knew Lloyd's Bank, I could be right, I could be wrong, said Waitrose and Lloyd's Bank need tenants for their new letting properties. I knew Lloyd's had decided they wanted to buy a bunch of housing and rent them out. I didn't realise Waitrose wanted that as well. Oh no wonder, of course, because Waitrose is John Lewis, isn't it? Okay, yeah, now I do remember. It is John Lewis who said they wanted that. Now I remember. Johnny Not Power's gone on to mock me. He said, morals, government. Good one, Jordan. Yeah, they don't have any form of morality going on there. At least none that we'd recognise as moral. I think their lack of morals gets them off, to be honest. That's the only way that I can explain people like them anyway. Reboot needed, as said. I don't want to be a minority in our own country, but I'm not sure breeding competition with foreigners is the answer. I agree. It's better to be strong in few than weak and many. At the end of the day, that's all they are. They are incredibly weak and incredibly fragmented, and there's a lot of them. Their numbers make them worrying, nothing else, and we don't need to be the same. Comes back to the same thing as always. When you look at what our people have done in the past, we've been absolutely amazing. We've been absolutely amazing with a very, very, very small population. Our population at the end of the war, I believe, was only 30 million. And I fully agree with Hashtag. 100%. Anyway, this has gotten off track as to why people cannot see this obsessive government tyranny. This is something that we need to think about, properly think about, and actually evaluate. Not just kind of do a little bit of activism and then walk away and say, job done. Like the Rebels at the Roundabout thing that I've seen a lot recently. It's a good idea. Not entirely sure it's going to do anything. Also, I apologise if you can hear that noise in the background. That is a combine. They've decided that the end of September is the perfect time to go and cut some wheat, which is about a month later than normal. So, yeah. Those I speak to often know the saga of the field. It is still incredibly, incredibly wet, so I don't think it's going to be a very good harvest for them, that's for sure. And it's pretty much the same everywhere around me. Which brings us back to the food supply issues, because food supply is the main problem that we're facing at the moment. Besides things like the unfettered immigration from nations that we wrongfully invaded. I saw something earlier on the Ice Age Farmers Telegram channel, which everyone should follow if they don't. Where is it? Don't mind me, I'm just getting a link I never thought I would need. But I'm going to describe the link because I can't find it quick enough. Basically, what he said was, because of the hurricane that smashed into the US the other day, it's knocked out one of their grain elevators. And this grain elevator is responsible for exporting about 9 to 10% of the US grain and corn. So at the very least, for the next couple of weeks, there's going to be far less grain in the system than there normally would be, especially considering, at least around me, we're very late in harvesting. I don't know about elsewhere. Dave has made a great observation. I haven't thought of this at all, and I don't know how. These Afghan evacuees being offered English lessons, weren't they meant to be interpreters? I don't know how I hadn't seen them. That's amazing. Anyway, yes, back to the food thing. I would love to find that link. I may just Google it. But yes, if that is indeed correct, and there is going to be a squeeze on the US grain export over the next couple of weeks, we're late in our harvest. I have no idea what's happening in Europe. I haven't heard anything. But if that is the case, then prices are going to slowly start to rise. I would imagine what would happen from that if it isn't fixed quickly, is prices will definitely rise, because that is going to be a major thing. But that is just going to force China to buy even more grain, even more corn, even more everything else that they're buying from the US. Soy, I think, was another thing that this grain elevator handled. So yeah, stock up on food. This is a great time to be going out looking for blackberries, looking for things like crab apples, even though the crab apples aren't out yet. Hazelnuts is another one. Yeah, just go out over the weekend. Just go out, find where these things are in your local area, make a note, see if they're ripe. If they're not ripe, don't worry about it. Go back in a week's time or a couple of weeks' time, whatever you think they're going to need. Because a lot of people last year went out picking, thinking, oh, lockdown, we have no idea what's going to happen, blah, 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 blah. This year, a lot of people are not thinking, oh, there's going to be another lockdown. A lot of people are going to get caught out by the next one. And when these people are caught out, they're going to be more desperate than they were last time. I agree with Spacer as well, network. Yeah, the stand in the parks are going wonderfully. They're going really, really, really well. Reboot has got 300 tins of beans in his garage. Now we're talking. As that drives around looking for food, that's how to do it. I've already got a couple of hazelnut trees around me. I've got a couple of chestnut trees. Although, to be fair, I don't have very much luck getting the chestnuts. For whatever reason, I go there and there's no chestnuts, and then I go back a couple of days later. Chestnut shells are all over the floor, but all the bloody nuts are gone. I have no idea why. I'm not really sure what the solution to this problem is. This has happened to me now for the last 4 years in a row. I feel like just taking a stick and trying to beat them down. Ultimately, I will climb up the tree, apart from the fact I'm absolutely petrified of heights. And chestnut trees are indeed very, very high. I've managed to get a couple. That was a long while ago, though. It was a very long while ago, actually. Was there any more for this evening? I'm not sure. I think there was, but I can't remember. Nah, I'm out of ideas. Whatever. Will has had chestnuts a few times and never liked them. You did them wrong. That's my only suggestion. You need to do them over an open fire. Once you roast them and they have that lovely smell going on, oh, they're so good. I can understand not liking them once they're turned into flour. Chestnut flour isn't my thing. It's unbelievably dry. Such is life. Ooh, Johnny Not Pants hit the mother load here. He picked up 2 trees yesterday for the log burner. Must be 2 or 3 years worth of wood. It was free. Asked the chap up the road if I could have it, or if he could have it. And he said, great, fill your boots. Never be afraid to ask. That is the right answer. Never be afraid to ask these things. Spacer said everyone was maskless at the test today. Brief respite. I don't have Sky, so I don't watch it, but I do listen. And from what I've seen on the BBC highlights, they're still doing that weird, like 2-3 yard spacing between each other. It's so weird. I know in the TMS box they've still got the bloody perspex up, and then they leave and they go get in the same cab. The amount of hypocrisy and illogic that people are putting up with at the moment is astounding. And I think that's a good thing. It is incredibly frustrating for us, but we shouldn't ever forget that it is the fact that everything is so illogical, and the fact that people aren't being consistent in how they're following it is such a good sign for us, because it shows that people just don't care. They're doing it because they feel like they have to do it. As soon as people stop feeling as if they have to do it, the majority of people are no longer going to put up with it, or they're going to start openly mocking it. People don't like to be mocked. People hate it. And if they're somebody who feels protected by their silly little bloody perspex screen, and they're suddenly being mocked for it, or they start seeing their silly little screen being mocked, they're not going to have the same feeling towards it. They're going to start thinking, okay, fine, maybe I am the weird one here. And that doubt is going to start getting into their mind. It's going to start chipping away at them. Doubt is an incredible thing. That's something, actually, that's something I've never thought of before. Doubt is an incredible thing. If you can start making people doubt what they are being told and doubt the actions they are taking, it will slowly start to chip away at their confidence in it. See, this is the sort of conversation I enjoy. Open-ended questions asked to myself. Why can't people see the tyranny? I don't know, but here's another possible solution. Maybe we should just slowly chip away at their confidence. I'm a big fan of taking inspiration from ideas from as many different places as possible, and as many different industries and things and entities, just as much information as possible. Because people face the same sort of issues in different guises. And what I mean by that is, like, confidence, for example. The example I just gave, chipping away at people's confidence in the system. I know, purely based upon both myself, my own experiences while playing sport, as well as my experience of watching sport, confidence plays a massive, massive thing. It plays a massive role, rather. So I was reading a comment from David I'm going to get to in a moment. And stepdad's not mean as well, for that matter. I know from my own experience that confidence plays a massive, massive role in how you perform and how you see the world and how you believe things to be. If we can slowly start chipping away at people's confidence in the restrictions and people's confidence in the government itself, these things will start to collapse. And by the government, I mean the entire system, not just the party that's in charge. The party that's in charge is relevant, we all know this. That ought to be our aim, I believe. I'm going to work on that. Condense that thought and make it a bit better. Anyway, Reggie, I'm going to read Stepdad's comment first because it was more amusing. He said, Jordan's AMA stream. Questions provided by himself. It's my favourite sort of stream. I can never be wrong. David has said, did business insurance today. Disruption insurance does not include if the government shut you down because of COVID, apparently. I'm not surprised. I'm not sure about this. I think they were covering it last time. But I think they were covering it mainly because even if it wasn't in people's insurance policy, they just kind of, the insurance companies themselves said, okay, fine, we'll cover it this time. But now we're going to be more exact going forward. So from this point on, they're not going to be covering it, which means when we do get locked down next time, there's going to be one less safety net. There's going to be fewer safety nets than there were last time. We will probably have the furlough thing again if companies start getting locked down, or shut down rather. I would expect as well, given the COVID marshals they were recruiting, that we're going to be seeing a lot of businesses targeted as individual businesses and shut down. So you're going to have a parade of shops open, but one of those shops is going to be shut. And that shop is going to be shut because the COVID marshals come around and say they're not doing it well enough. That would be my guess. Space Opera Markers back me up and say confidence plays a massive role in all walks of life. Nah, Tom forgot it was Friday. Tisk tisk. Spacer said 18 months is too long. How can people not ask questions? It's a good question. And is ultimately the heart of what I asked. Is it a case of they're not asking questions? Or is it the case of they're not confident enough to make an assertion? Because the reason I say that is at the moment, if you're not us, if you take us and our opinions out of this and you just look at this from a cold external perspective, you look at the media, everyone in the media is saying the same thing. You go around shops, maybe not most, but a lot of people are wearing masks. You can assume that the people who are not wearing masks are vaccinated. Or you can believe that they are vaccinated, basically. You look around at all of this, and you see a society which is all pretty much on the same page. You know, the media is saying the same thing, the government is saying the same thing, the experts are saying the same thing. Most of the people in shops are saying the same thing, and the people in shops who aren't saying the same thing visibly, i.e. with a mask, are potentially just vaccinated. Thereby don't feel as if they need the mask. Somewhere along that we need to break through and make sure that people know that while all those things are in place, there is a large amount of people on the opposite side saying this isn't normal, this isn't right, this isn't good. Reboot Needed said another player has collapsed on the field today, another footballer rather, has collapsed on the field today. I saw in the space of 15 minutes, 2 West Indian cricketers went down. I think the only reason this wasn't bigger news, yeah, there we go, Space has got it as well. So the only reason it wasn't bigger news was because they were women cricketers. I think that was the only reason it didn't actually hit the headlines. I think if it was, well, in this country, certainly, I think if it was Ben Stokes or Josh Butler who went down during a game, I think we would have heard all about it. So yeah, they went down in the space of 15 minutes. That was on YouTube, that was live. That was a very interesting thing to watch. Very interesting indeed. There was nothing from the West Indies board afterwards either. Merely that both players were okay and that was it. They then shut up about it. Mr. said, one could say all you could hear were crickets. That was pretty good. It's not the best joke we've ever had, but it was pretty good. I'll let that one go. That was good. I haven't had any dad jokes tonight. It's kind of remarkable. Oh, I agree with that as well, Roy. It is strange how most of the world's senior politicians are at risk. Yet they're all just fine. There's not a single worry about it, not even a sniffle. Not even with dear old Biden. I'll be honest with you, the Biden administration has been very, very boring. There's not been any... There's not been anything, actually. There's no memes, no nothing. Just boring. At least with Trump, it was basically every day you knew you'd be getting something pretty damn funny. Or you'd be annoying someone, and then they would go and say something funny. With Biden, there's nothing. Obviously, the dementia is so far now, he can't even be funny. Accidentally. It's just kind of sad. William has said, I don't like cricket jokes. I love them. The one downside about being a cricket fan is, or a cricketer to be precise, when you're in a dressing room and your phone rings, or a phone rings, without a doubt it's going to be the TMS theme tune. And then, without a doubt, 4 or 5 or 6 people are going to scramble around looking for their phone. They're going to knock you all over the place while they're looking for it. I very much suspect they have indeed all had the placebo spacer. I've often thought this about tennis players as well. It's all of them. All of those things. None of them are... None of them are given the thing that we're given. In my opinion. I definitely agree with that, Roy. The God Emperor was indeed good value. It was great value. Honestly, those 4 years, that was a meme-rich environment. It was wonderful. It was, at the very least, it was humorous. So yeah, I think that's going to be about it for this evening. Joe and I are going to resume this conversation. I don't know whether we're going to do it next week or the week after, but we're definitely coming back to this. Why can't people see through the government tyranny? What is stopping them from seeing it? It's certainly not a lack of information that's out there. It is certainly... I don't believe it's a lack of intelligence. I don't think that's the answer either. I think that is... No, I just don't think that's it. So there's got to be more to it, and I think it comes down to that confidence angle. They're confident in what they see. They're confident in their understanding of the world. And if we can just break through that just a little bit, and I don't think doing it with facts and logic is the way to go. I don't think doing it with facts and logic is the thing at all. I think that's detrimental, if anything, because it isn't chipping away at confidence. It is providing people with logical facts. People don't really respond to logical facts very well. So yeah. One last joke before we go. Daffyd has said, the police rang and asked me to attend an interview. I don't even remember applying there for a job. I like that. That is a great one. Allegedly, Boycott just retired because he was old. I have a strong suspicion it's because he wouldn't get on board with the BLM stuff. I've said a number of times before. You'll notice Aggers is always absent, miraculously absent, whenever they do their BLM stuff. And there were reasons for that. So yeah, I have a strong feeling that Boyks is much the same. So yes, anyway, thank you all for joining me. That was a slightly strange return. Especially considering we're missing one half of the Wally and Gromit show. I don't know, we need to come up with a name. We'll work on that through the week. So yes, anyway, thank you all for joining me, and we will see you next week. There will hopefully be 2 of us. At the very least, there'll be 1 of us, and that 1 of us will definitely be on Restream, so we'll be on D Live as well, not just here. But anyway, I hope you have a nice weekend.